This is the Aflac Insurance Inside High School Sports Show, highlighting all of Section 3, interviewing the greatest local coaches and athletes. Brought to you by SummitCars.com, broadcasting in the ESPN studios. Here's your host, Mike Bristol, and Eagle Newspapers' Phil Blackwell.
All right, here we are, Aflac Insurance Inside High School Sports Show. Phil, what's up, brother?
Wow. I mean, add to the fact that it's been about the busiest time of high school sports since everything restarted. Add to it about 90-degree temperatures the last couple of days, and you can see why it can all be so draining on people. But the action has come hot and heavy, no pun intended. I mean, it's just been just a continual barrage of games and results and twists and turns and all kinds of stuff, and we got a lot to go through.
Well, we've got a great program for you, as Phil just mentioned. We're going to kick things off after we do our weekly top 10. Phil produces the top 10. You can check that out at InsideHighSchoolSports.com. But we're going to kick the show off with our Aflac Spotlight interview with Lafayette boys lacrosse coach Chris O'Hara. And there's obviously immense history and tradition at Lafayette boys lacrosse. It's continued to grow. 2019, when the Lancers roared to the state Class D championship, beating Briarcliff in overtime to earn the title. And after, look at everyone waited through the idle 2020 here, somewhat season or whatever you want to call it. Lafayette returned the spring and just as good, having won 9 of its first 10 games. Its lone blemish, a 1-goal defeat to CBA, all the while scoring at least 12 goals in every game. So we're going to talk to Chris O'Hara, who coaches the Lancers, and he'll join us here on the Aflac Inside High School Sports Show.
All through the last month. It's not just the victories, it's some of the numbers they put up. I think the sophomore Bucktooth had, for example, in a game against Homer, I think earlier this week, 10 goals and 3 assists in a single game. And he's a sophomore. So he's only going to get much better as he goes along. Nelson Jones, another starter for that team. Lafayette is certainly, again, the favorites in the Class D sectional portion of things. And they have as much skill and probably showmanship as literally any team in the area, but they also have plenty of grit as well. I mean, you don't build the record that they do just by having a lot of skill. They have some toughness as well.
You're absolutely right. After that, Phil lined up for a Nagel Turf interview. Jamesville-DeWitt boys tennis players Esek Glowacki, Mark Bratslavsky, Mike Bristol, and Luke Cantone. And it isn't just the Jamesville-DeWitt girls tennis team. They're 8-0 with 2 matches left in the regular season. It's the numbers that have put up along the way. 56 points at stake. The Red Rams have won all of the 56 of them, something no other Section 3 team can claim. They can only come from having terrific players in both singles and doubles. And JD is represented by Essex Glowacki brothers and Mike and Mark Braslavsky, as well as Luke Cantone, each of whom joins us here on the Aflac Insurance Inside High School Sports Show.
JD's always had a strong tennis program, but I think they've peaked this season. When you're shutting out every opponent, when you're winning every match in straight sets, and you're doing it with a deep lineup of fine athletes. These are not just one-sports people. The Bratslavsky brothers were both part of a JV soccer team that won the sectional championship a couple of years ago. Nathan Chen, another player, was one of the top swimmers on the JV boys swim team. So these are good athletes. They're not just one-note tennis players. And what they're doing this season is playing up the most dominant season of anybody. Even the other undefeated teams, SM and CVA, have dropped points here and there. In fact, FM dropped 3 points the other day to Beazle. JD's not come close to dropping a point. This is quite a season they're putting together.
Well, it doesn't get any better when you get to be able to hang out with Phil. Phil, sorry about that. I was just checking the
It got very quiet. It's like, okay, what were they saying that was so bad?
I was checking the top. I was going through the top 10, and you got me thinking. You got me thinking about, I guess, amid all the way, going on. If you look at boys lacrosse, you've got some news late last week, obviously, that Rick stepped down from CBA in midseason, which was quite a jolt. The brothers were 4-2 and had, among other things, landed reigning state Class D champion Lafayette. It's a lone defeat this spring. So CBA didn't seem to be affected by it since it beat West Jenny 11-5 a couple of days later before a loss to Baldwinsville, who remains a Class A team to beat. But it's gearing up itself for the 2 late-season battles against FM. Somehow the Hornets have stayed unbeaten, having turned back JD 17-12 and rallied from 6-3 down at halftime to beat CNS 12-10 ahead of a rematch with JD this weekend, and then 2 showdowns with Beeville. Have you ever had a chance to catch up with Rick at all, Phil?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think the whole thing with Rick was that I think it might have been more family issues, and I think the program's in very good hands with their other coaches, and they're a solid team. It's better to leave a program healthy than to leave it in trouble, and CVA's program seems pretty healthy. But as to FM, they were undefeated, past 10th. Last night, Jamesville-DeWitt goes out and beats FM 11-3.
Wow.
That was an impressive all-around performance as any team has put together this season. Think about that. JD gave up 17 goals to FM last Saturday when they first played. They turned it around completely in the rematch, playing superb defense, getting hat-tricks from Kive and Kesseling. JD was a team that also handed East Syracuse Manoa its first defeat of the season earlier this week. So any concerns that JD might have tailed off this season a little bit because of some early defeats, they've turned that around in a hurry.
Also entering this week, the only other undefeated team in boys lacrosse other than FM was its Class B neighbors from East Syracuse Manoa, who had gone 5-0 against overmatched opponents. That changed as well Tuesday night, though, as the Spartans saw JD not 8 straight goals to break out a 6-6 tie and ultimately prevail 14-7. And these 2 sides will meet again next week. It's yet another intense where the regular season may prove more interesting than Section 3 playoffs here in June, since the top teams in each class have frequent league encounters, but then go into separate classes for the postseason. Also, it remains Baldwinsville, FM, JD, Lafayette is pretty clear sectional favorites after they all won titles there in 2019, so they're all doing very well, like usual.
Well, with ESM, I also wanted to mention also that even though they lost on Tuesday, they did win on Thursday night and gave their coach, John McCoy, his 200th career victory. Congratulations on that. ESM's got a very fine team this season, and they are lining up as maybe the main challenger to FM, but as we've seen, because FM lost, suddenly the vulnerability might be there a little bit for the Hornets, so it might not be a slam dunk for FM yet. I'm very curious to see what happens Tuesday night when FM and Baldwinsville meet each other for the second time. Their first game was a classic.
All right, Phil's top 10. We're on number 3 here turning to the girls lacrosse side. Let's do that. All is geared up for 2 games next week between Class A favorites Baldwinsville and CNS. We also could talk about the North Stars survived 2 close calls against FM in a 4-day span while the Bees held off CBA 12-10 here in girls lacrosse a couple of days after the brothers who would move up to Class A for sectional competition. They had a similar result at West Jenny. Let's add to it Rome Free Academy here in girls lacrosse, trying to send out retiring coach Doug Rowe with an unlikely title run, and it overwhelms the scene in Class B, where despite FM's improvement, not one might have answered for Auburn, who on the way to building an 8-0 record has scored 20-plus goals 4 times and combined 50 goals in romps over Marcel's and Oswego, and that was earlier this week.
Well, and the unpredictability in Class A might be even picking up a little bit more because CNS was rolling along, but after those close calls with FM, a couple of them, on Thursday night, they lost 19-13 to Liverpool, who only had, I think, 1 or 2 wins all season entering the game, but had played everybody like West Genesee and Beeville pretty close in previous games. But Liverpool broke out and beat CNS on Thursday, adding even more intrigue to the Class A picture. CBA, yes, they lost those games to Beeville and West Genesee, but those games were both close. They played them close.
Well,
and RFA was undefeated until New Hartford knocked them off in the middle of this week. So the Spartans, keep an eye out on them in terms of Class C, even though you would think that Fulton and Jamesville-DeWitt are favorites. New Hartford could be someone you have to think about, too, down the road.
Mike Bristol, Phil Blackwell, the Athletic Insurance Inside High School Sports, our weekly top 10. Phil kind of recaps what had happened during the week. It was Fulton getting off to the quick start here in Class C girls lacrosse. It's only blemish, a 16-8 defeat to a great Auburn team that pulled away after it was tied at halftime. Also, reigning champion JD started 0-4, won 5 in a row, setting up a rematch with Fulton that happens today that could determine who in the Class C sectional playoff favorites here. Of course, everyone chases Skinny Atlas and girls across in Class D as the Lakers are the only other undefeated team besides Auburn have seen challenges like West Hill and Marcellus get beat by large school competition. Though Skinny Atlas is likely to worry about South Jeff, who's done very well, who other than a 1-goal loss to CNS his cleanup against all the Frontier League opponents to build a 9-1 record.
Yeah, I mean, the structure in Class D remains pretty much the same. Everyone chases Skinny Atlas, who, other than Auburn, is the only other undefeated team left in girls lacrosse. The Lakers have just rolled through their competition, and South Jefferson, other than that one goal defeat to CNS, has done the same, running through all the Frontier League opponents. So, again, those teams are well ahead of everyone. I'm curious to see what happens in this J.D. Fulton rematch, because, again, wasn't handled them the first time around, but J.D.'s now found their rhythm here in the last couple of weeks, winning 5 games in a row, and you know they're going to be peaking towards season's end, and it should make for a very interesting sectional tournament once you get to that point. We're only a couple of weeks away from it now.
Let's talk about the ballpark. Number 5 here, a little baseball action. Today we'll see CNS and Baldwinsville clash on the diamond with first place in the SCAC Metro Division at stake. After 2 losses to Liverpool, we'll talk about this. The North Stars won 7 in a row, including 1 over Baldwinsville, and almost all of those wins lopsided. CNS looked to avenge those defeats to Liverpool. That happened on Wednesday. The Bees, meanwhile, keep pulling out close ones like 2-1 over Whitesboro, 3-1 over West Jenny, and with strong pitching every time out. Among the Class A sides, CBA and Whitesboro both lost against Class AA opponents here in baseball, while Cortland, entering the week 8-0 after sweeps of JD and East Syracuse, look to do the same in 2 games against Central Square, and that happened this week. Phil, sum it up for us.
Well, I'll tell you this. Central Square had Cortland absolutely beat on Thursday, but Cortland, I think, scored 4 runs in the bottom of the 7th inning, pulled out a 5-4 victory, and have moved to 10-0 on this season. The Purple Tigers have been putting together one of the best seasons in all of Section 3. I'm looking forward. I'm heading out later to watch this CNS Beeville game because having seen CNS on Wednesday, they managed to avenge those defeats to Liverpool, winning 13-5, doing most of the damage in the late innings. They just have a lineup that 1-9, everyone seems to hurt you. They have a deep pitching rotation. Kevin Rockwell has got his own son, Mike, is really on a tear at the plate right now. I mean, so CNS is on such a roll right now. But Beeville could have the antidote with all that pitching that they've got. Another shutout yesterday by Arvin Titus against Rome Free Academy by the Bees, as they look forward to today. And there's actually 2 games left between the Bees and North Stars in the regular season, but those 2 have separated themselves among the Class AA sides.
All right, every team in Class B baseball has lost at least once, so trying to guess, I guess, who will get favored in the postseason, obviously it's difficult. However, Casanova has won 6 in a row. Camden has jumped out 7-2 here in Class B, and Lowville's 5-1 to go with the usually strong teams from West Hill and Skaneateles that met again in the middle of this week. Move to Class C, and defending champion Cooperstown was 7-0 heading into the second half of its schedule. Weedsport and West Canada undefeated, plus another strong team from Beaver River sitting at 7-2, not to mention Oriskany and Thousand Islands at 6-2. While fewer teams have stood out in Class D so far, you got Lyme has won 5 of its first 6 games, and Hamilton has jumped out 4-2, though plenty of action remains here across the board in Class B, C, and D baseball.
And Weedsport, I want to keep mentioning them because they knocked off Bishop Ludd in the middle of this week. They've kept themselves undefeated, and them and Cooperstown seem to be separating themselves as the top 2 teams in the C ranks. Casanova has to be mentioned on the baseball side. This team's now won 8 in a row, and many of their best players, like Donlin, who's a freshman pitcher, and Jack Burns, who's a sophomore, have put up tremendous seasons for the best Casanova team in quite some time. Westland Skaneateles, remember they had that memorable 14-inning sectional final. They played earlier this season and Westville won. In the rematch, Skaneateles was up 5-1, but West back, took it to extra innings, and won at 7-5 in 9 innings. So the Warriors are again a Class B contender, and they got maybe the sweetest kind of payback at Skaneateles by winning an extra inning game in 9 innings, not 14, but they got even a little bit.
All right, let's talk about the State Coaches Association here in softball. Came out with state rankings this week, and we saw that unbeaten Cicero North Syracuse was placed at number 6. In Class AA, Jamesville-DeWitt only at number 9. In Class A, despite roaring past all of its opponents in a similar manner to the North Stars, it was better in Class B, where Marcellus, whose lone defeat was a CNS, was number 5, and followed up with a 10-1-0 10-inning win over previously unbeaten Chittenango. Oneida as well, number 13. Cooperstown found C in Class D. Hamilton, who was put up a ton of runs in the earlier games, rose all the way to number 3. Stockbridge Valley wasn't far behind here in softball. And the Emerald Knights Cougars held the number 5 spot. still with a lot of time to improve here in softball, but a lot of great rankings to point out.
Yeah, and Poland knocked off Hamilton softball earlier this week. I mentioned the Tornadoes in that victory. But Marcellus, it wasn't just the fact that they had the 10-inning win over Chittenango. Then, 2 days later, they beat CVA, and Aubrey Fair throws a no-hitter. So there's another performance from her. So, yeah, some people still pitch around here. I talked about how many runs have been scored around here. But, yeah, you still got some strong pitchers on the top teams, whether it's Frere at Marcellus, whether it's McMahon, the freshman pitcher at JD, or Cassidy Ormond at CNS, who this week alone has thrown a couple of shutouts. They beat Liverpool for the third time this season, 8-0. It was the case earlier this week. Ormond threw a couple of shutouts, as CNS has just vaporized anyone that's trying to get close to them and remain undefeated.
All right, number 8 here, the top 10 among the full crowded slate of track and field meets this week as there was a showdown between Liverpool and CNS in track and field here, both of whom would also have to take on Baldwinsville with league honors at stake. In the OHSL Liberty Division, 2 other undefeated teams, Casanova, Jordan Elbridge, would meet on the girls' side, while up in the SCAC Empire Division, East Syracuse Manoa pulled off quite a feat, 3 victories in an 8-day span. The Spartans defeating PSLA Fowler and Oswego, and then having both of its teams win narrow decisions over Central Square, all in advance of what looks like the key showdown with the JD side, who has been just as active and just as successful after these same foes here in track and field.
Wanted to mention a bunch of things. First of all, CNS swept the meet with Liverpool, and among other things, what happened in the girls' meet, you had Hannah Boyle, who broke the school record in the 400-meter dash the week before. She won 2 events on the girls' side. Boys' side, again, a strong overall performance by the North Stars. But I mentioned Casanova. Both teams are strong. The girls' team won at Jordan numbers to keep itself undefeated. But then the boys' team goes, and they have this Tully Boys COVID Alternative Invitational on Friday. And Tully and Casanova wins it over Tully, 227 points to 153. And Andrew Kent, we had these people on the program last week, he broke the school record in the 200-meter dash that had been set back in 1999. Another school record falling for the CAS program as they're having just a magnificent season. And USM's boys, Lonnie mentioned one of the best athletes in there, Rocky L. That's his name. 100 and 200 victories, plus wins in the triple jump. Can't wait to see that meet between ESM and JD. Both of them have pulled off close wins over Central Square and Oswego, and now they'll face each other next week.
All right, we finally got some interesting boys tennis matches last weekend. The schedule managed let's talk about put together Fayetteville Manlius and its main SCAC Metro Division challenger Baldwinsville together twice in a 3-day span. The first match had the Bees earn points in singles and doubles, but the Hornets, with a quartet of straight set wins, pulled it out 4-3. Then Monday's rematch, 3-set wins with Baldwinsville in a pair of contests where not enough as FM took the rest of them, 1-5-2, and again looked at an undefeated regular season. This is something 2 of FM's neighbors, JD and CBA, are trying to accomplish, 2 with no one getting close to the Red Rams yet, and the brothers off a 5-2 win over previously unbeaten Onondaga West Hill earlier this week here in boys tennis.
And CBA kept on going with that, with victories over the likes of Marcellus later in the week. And also wanted to mention Casanova again. They had a victory. They won the OHSL Liberty National title with a 3-2 win over Skinny Atlas on Friday. But getting back to FM, this is a team that years and years have had so many undefeated seasons in a row and rarely had anyone get close to them. Credit Baldwinsville for getting close to them, getting victories in singles and doubles with players like Antonio Marsalo and Connor Tudor and players like that. But again, FM a little bit deeper, manages to win and manages to keep itself unbeaten. But as we've seen, and we'll talk to the JV players, I would love to see FM and JD or JD and CBA face each other in outside league to really see who was the top team in the area. It would have been fun.
All right, the top 10 and Phil's 10th here as we go right through the list. Girls golf teams move toward the second half of their regular season slates. And in the SCAC Metro Division, Liverpool's hard-earned place atop the standings was challenged twice this week. CNS, Syracuse Blue almost got the Warriors, but the Evanton sisters helped Liverpool take it 153-161 as it would move on to host FM Green on Thursday in a rematch of the April 30th match. Liverpool claimed to go into first place. Meanwhile, here also in golf in the Onondaga High School League, all still chase CBA, who managed to survive some tough matches later last week, including one over a relatively new team at Manlius Pebble Hill to move comfortably into first place with a couple of more weeks to go before the league and Section 3 tournaments here in June for boys golf.
Yeah, and of course, Liverpool kept it up. On Thursday when they played FM Green, it was a 146-149 matchup at Hickory Hills. And there, Mia Abbotton's had a 29 and Natalie Evans a 31 in between Lucy Fowler's 30 for FM Green. But those teams were closer this time around than they were the first time they met. But both times, Liverpool finished on top. Was still a challenge for CNS, and they're looking at their first league championship in a long time, thanks to the Abbotton sisters, who, of course, were in the state tournament a couple of years ago. TV has managed to keep itself unbeaten, too, although you've seen real improvement from some of the teams around them. They've managed to, with their depth, to win all their matches and stay atop the OHSL.
Phil, what's on the agenda for you today? What's your plans?
Well, I'm going to the CNS Wallmanville baseball game right now, so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens between these two.
All
because
right.
of the way both teams are playing. North Stars have won, now I think it's 8-9 in a row, and B's only loss was to CNS. So, yeah, this is a big one.
All right, Phil Blackwell, thanks, Phil. Like usual, always an incredible job.
Thank you.
Phil Blackwell from the Eagle newspapers always does a terrific job. The main contributor and the main guy here on the Aflac Insurance Inside High School Sports Show. We get back, we're going to have our Aflac Spotlight interview. Lafayette Boys Lacrosse coach Chris O'Hara. Get ready.
This is the Aflac Insurance Inside High School Sports Show, brought to you by SummitCars.com.
All right, back on the program. Welcome here. Check out Atlas Fence, my good friend Chris Palomino, 463-9207. Chain link fence, cedar fence, PVC. They have it all, whether it's for privacy, for a backyard, if it's for around a pool. Commercial, residential, check out Atlas Fence, my good friend Chris Palomino, 463-9207. All right, back on the program. Thanks for joining us. And as I mentioned, Aflac Spotlight interview, Lafayette Boys Lacrosse coach Chris O'Hara. Coach, how are you?
Good. How are you today?
Good. What's happening, son? What are you outside? What are you doing?
We actually just got done with practice.
All right. Good practice. How was it today?
It was good. It's a little bit warm out, but you can't give them a day off, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I guess when everyone gathering here again in April, did it take much time to get all the players cohesive and back in rhythm after nearly 2 years?
Well, it's pretty much a completely different team. So it was kind of like starting fresh. A lot of the kids had played together at different places, but yeah, it took a little while to get everybody back on the same page. Anybody
still left from that 2019 state championship team?
Oh yeah, we've got a handful of guys that were with us then, all seniors now.
So you have obviously a lot of skill. It's Jameson Bucktooth, the sophomore, leads with I think it's 33 goals, 19 assists. Talk about how tough he is. Talk about the player he is and what he brings to your team.
He is just a physically and mentally tough kid, and that's a good word for him. Is tough. He's hard on himself, and he's nothing but effort. And we have a whole team of hustle. This is probably one of the hardest working teams that I've ever been a part of.
There are 6 players with double-digit goals, though including Nelson Jones, 26 goals and 18 assists. What's the best part of his skill set, and again, what he brings to the team?
He's a senior. He wasn't with our team before, but he came back to us this year, and he's got that quickness behind the cage where he can go either direction. So if you're playing against him, you got to play the whole field. Then we've got Arrow Booth on the right side and Brett Bucktooth Jr. on the left side, and they're both double-digit scorers and assist guys. So he's got a lot of people to throw the ball to once he gets some space.
Obviously you mentioned Jameson, and you mentioned a few other players. Who else, I guess, among some of the new players on the team have really stood out for you?
Brett and Arrow are both sophomores. Jameson, again, he's a sophomore. Vern Cook is a junior, and he's just a natural leader of a kid. He's a junior, but we didn't have him in that championship run. He was still playing at the modified level then. New guy at the school is Connor Meeks Vaughn. He's another sophomore midfielder, very athletic kid, knows the game. So we have a lot of young guys, that not only do they have talent, but they've got that hustle gene. They just don't quit.
Talking to Chris O'Hara, Lafayette boys lacrosse coach. You look at the offense, you can simply outscore anyone you face. Talk about the defense and I guess some of the focus there, but clearly you can score the ball.
Yeah, I mean, trying to outscore anybody is a dangerous concept to try to go with.
Yeah.
It's kind of got a double-edged sword because every time you put the ball in the net, you got to go back to that face-off X, and we've come up against some teams that have some real good face-off guys. So we would like to actually never slow down a Lafayette offense, but try to value those possessions a little bit better. On the defensive end, we've got a couple of seniors that were with us in that championship run, Bryce Piron and Carter Gentili, that they were there for that season, and they know what it takes. And they both played behind three starters that were seniors at the time. So this year they've been able to step up and really take over. And actually, Carter is kind of anchoring our defense, and he was actually an attackman 2 years ago. But he saw the talent that we had on the field, and he wanted to play. And we knew that we could use him at pole, and he transitioned to the defense and actually is the anchor of that defense right now.
I guess like with any program, you see alumni come back, they help the program, they do different things. Who are some of the prominent former players that have helped this group?
Well, I mean, you've got a lot of prominent guys coming out of the program. I mean, Lars Tiffany, the head coach at Virginia. He's somebody that these kids can aspire to. A D1 coach. All these kids want to be D1 prospects. We've got our assistant coach, Louis Giswaldo. He played here. The kids, are glued to him when he talks because, they know that he played Lafayette lacrosse and went to college to play lacrosse. The whole Gale family, Kevin Gale coached at Lafayette for years, and Blake and Ty both come down and spend some time with the kids. And that's just a true Lafayette family right there through and through. Brian Gormley runs I think it's the alumni group there, and they support the team tremendously between the Lacrosse Association and the alumni group and the boosters themselves. We get a lot of support from the community and alumni.
You only, let's think about it, have 4 seniors on this team. I mean, 2022, I mean, this could be, you're not even peaking yet. I mean, imagine what this team could be the next year or two.
Well, and that's one thing you want to try not to get too far ahead of yourself. Kids have to go where their parents are, so you get transition sometimes, kids, coming in and out. And hopefully the team that we've got, can mature, and, keep the talent and their studies in line and be available to us. But it's a little bit scary to try to think too far into the future like that. But it definitely does bode well for the future to have, this much interest. I mean, I've been at the district, coaching from modified to JV, for the better than 15 years. And, we've had more bodies on this team, than I've seen in a very long time. So having that interest in the program, is tremendous. And we're hoping to, bring that right down into the community level.
What's next for you guys as I get ready to wrap this up? What's next on Lafayette's schedule?
We got Casanova on Tuesday. That's going to be our senior night. And then we've got West Hill again on Thursday. We've got tough teams for the rest of our schedule. That's next week, and the week after that, we've got Skinny Atlas and Tully and Casanova again. So, in this league that we've got going on, everybody is kind of neck and neck. You can throw your record out the window when the teams show up here. Everybody knows each other at this point in the season. They've watched each other. We've played a couple of these teams already. So all 5 of these games coming out should be real good games.
All right, beautiful. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate you taking some time and keep rolling here. Chris O'Hara, Lafayette Boys Lacrosse coach. Thanks, Leon.
Thank you.
All right, Coach, on the program. We'll be right back. ESPN Radio 97.7, 100.1.
This is the Aflac Insurance Inside High School Sports Show, brought to you by SummitCars.com.
All right, we got our Nagel Turf weekly interview here, and it looks like we've got Mike and Mark Bristol on the program. Boys, how are you? Welcome to the program.
Hello, how are you? I'm Mark. I'm good.
Mark, what's up? Mike, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Good. Now, are you guys related to the Gennady Bristlavsky?
Yes, we are. He's our father.
Oh, my gosh. I feel bad for you guys. Really?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Man, you guys got Gennady. Is it? No, he's great. Gennady's my boy. I didn't even know that. So Gennady's got a pretty... So you guys are good soccer players and tennis players, right?
I guess so.
Wow. Good job, boys. All right, well, let's get into it. Your dad's a great guy and a good friend of ours here, the coach and the Boeheim Foundation, and they were a long-time sponsor here in the program, so your dad's always been a good guy, a great guy to know. So let's get going. You guys better give him lots of hugs and lots of love to that guy.
Mark, all right, we will.
I want to make sure, no wise guys here. All right, let's get going right off the bat. So I'm sure you thought you guys would be very good this season, but did you expect this kind of dominance? Mark, why don't you go first?
So this season, yeah, we were planning to go undefeated. Everybody has been playing at their best, and everybody's focused during the matches. So yeah, I think we were planning to go undefeated, and we were planning to be this dominant from the start.
Mike, talk about what makes you guys so tough.
I think it's just really the relationships that we all have. I know the team wouldn't be the same without the guys, every single guy on the ladder, no matter their position. Everyone's an integral part of this team, and I think if it wasn't for our strong bonds, we wouldn't be where we are.
You know, Mark, let's go to you for a second. You know, tennis was not like many sports that were so affected by COVID. Were you guys able to get in a fair amount of court time here in 2020?
Yes, fortunately, it's more of a socially distant sport, so we were able to. But it's been slightly affected because usually we'd have team snacks, but that was just canceled and everything because of the current circumstances.
Well, let's talk you two for a second here. One, obviously, when you guys play singles, one plays doubles, was there ever consideration for you two to work together and as a double team or not?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Mark and I, we have a great relationship. Mark is a fantastic tennis player. I think that we just have different strengths in different areas of our game. And so while I think that we could definitely play doubles together, and I would definitely love to do that in the future, this year we kind of just took our own path.
Talk about the individual play then, Mike. Talk about your strengths and some of the things you're working on.
Well, yeah, I've been working a lot at my net game, which I hope makes me a stronger doubles player. And again, my doubles partner, him and I have a great relationship, and I've just been able to develop also a good serve, which helps me out in doubles as well.
Mark, talk about your game. Talk about singles and playing here.
So I think my biggest strength is my serve. I'm a pretty tall guy. I'm 6'1", so I can definitely get some power. But I would say my weakness, like many other tennis players, is my backhand. I just have to practice that more and get it more developed.
What are your guys' future plans, Mike? What do you plan on doing after high school?
After high school, I'm gonna study biology at SUNY Albany, and then hopefully move on to medical school afterwards. That's the lifelong goal. And continue to play tennis, of course.
What kind of doctor would you like to be?
At this point, I'm open to everything. I am very interested in cardiology and urology also. They're both great fields, but I'm hoping to find out what I want to do for certain along the way.
That's right. Mark, how about you?
I'm not sure yet. I've still got a couple of years to decide, and I think I need to take some more classes to find my true interest, but perhaps something in the medical field as well.
Guys, tell me about some of the younger players, some of the guys you're able to mentor. Mike, if you want to take that one first, talk about some of the younger guys that have been stepping up.
Yeah, that's a very important question. I know that there's two freshmen this year. Their names are Carson and Shrey, and they play doubles together usually, and they're just fantastic athletes. They're great to be on the team with. I know Carson always has a great positive energy. Shrey is always working to improve themselves. They show up to optional cardio practices, And so it's fantastic to be able to be on a team with such hardworking individuals. There's not much to mentor them because they're so self-driven.
We're talking JD boys tennis with the Braslavsky brothers. Mark, I'm going to go to you here. Obviously, you guys are a terrific team, a dominating team, but you've also seen good teams, FM and CBA. You don't get to match up against those guys. I'm assuming you probably see them at the club or different places. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to face those teams?
Yeah, so we have been actually trying to face those teams, but unfortunately tennis, it's based on different classes, and since FM is a bigger school and Baldwinsville is also a bigger school, we don't get to play them, but we've been trying to set up some out-of-the-league matches, and hopefully we'll be able to see them.
Boys, what do you guys do to stay bonded? What do you guys do as a team to work together? Give me some of the stuff that you guys do.
So it's hard again because of COVID, but we have been having we went to Chick-fil-A one time after one of our matches, and during practices we're always super tight, and I think that's as much we can do, unfortunately, because of the COVID time. But the tennis team has always been very tightly knit, and no matter what, we're always close.
Beautiful. Real quick, boys, one last question. You look at some of these matches really lopsided. Does it lead to other individual goals or just more intense practice sessions? Mark, why don't you take that first one?
So the season honestly has been kind of easy. We haven't really had any challenging matches, but just individual goals are just to get much better, to not lose a game. I think we all have those same goals, and just to go undefeated and to win.
Mike, same question to you.
Yeah, I think our biggest motivational factor is just the strive for success. And we always know that regardless if we're playing, we need to focus and we need to continue to push ourselves to become the best tennis players that we can become.
Well, you guys have been terrific. Mike and Mark Braslavsky, incredible talent here locally. Boys, great job at JD. Keep things rolling. Thanks for being on the program, and I think we're going to talk to Luke next.
Thank you so much for having us.
Boys,
Thanks for having us.
Boys, incredible job. Tell your dad I said hello and your mother. And again, you've got a terrific father there. So great job, boys.
Thank you.
All right, take care. So we're going to go now to Luke Cantone. We're talking a little bit more JD boys tennis. Luke, how are you, buddy? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I just got a chance to talk to Mike and Mark, so now I'm talking to you here. It seems some of the younger players that have stood out on this team that some might not have heard about. Talk about some of those guys, Luke, that we haven't heard about.
When it comes to the younger guys, we have Will Charlo, Shrey Bott, and Carson Sauser, and they're honestly really good. And I think that in the incoming years, we are gonna be a very strong team.
Talk about Essex. Talk about Mike and Mark, yourself. All you guys really standing out as terrific players here at JD Boys Tennis.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's clear that when it comes to our school, a lot of us put in the work off season. I see a lot of these guys on the team at Elevate Fitness in DeWitt, where I play off season, and I think that that's really what pushes us to be the best that we can. That we care, that we really love the sport, and we really push ourselves in the season when we're not playing competitively for the school.
Luke, what's next for you? What happens after here?
Next year, I'm really, really hoping to go to states. There's no states this year, unfortunately, right. But I want to push myself. I'm going to keep playing year-round, play USTA tournaments over the summer, and I really just want to push myself to be the best I can.
Well, you've done an incredible job, and congratulations, obviously, to all your success. Same sort of thing. Matches have been lopsided. What do you do to stay competitive and stay sharp?
We do a lot of, we play each other a lot in practices. We had a J versus D day where we split the team, and we played each other, and it actually ended up being a tie because I feel like that's it shows how competitive we are with each other and how really even our team is. But, yeah, we really just try to push each other to keep up.
Well, Luke, great job. Luke Cantone here on the program, and you and the Braslavsky boys as well as Essex, great job, and thanks for being on the program.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
All right, great tennis talk. We'll be right back. ESPN Radio 97.7 100.1.